In the welcome, my amazing friends. Today I bring you a story that will touch your heart, inspire your soul, and teach you powerful lessons about life, success, and the incredible strength of never giving up. This is not just the story of a man. It is the story of a legend. A man who was more than just an actor, more than just a comedian. He was a force of nature, a symbol of hope, resilience, and brilliance. His name is written in golden letters in the history of cinema. The man who made the whole world laugh while silently carrying the weight of his own pain. The man who hid tears behind laughter and transformed suffering into timeless art. That man, my friends, was Sir Charles Spencer Chaplin. But the world knows him simply as Charlie Chaplin. No one, absolutely no one, can match his greatness. His work is eternal, his comedy universal. His life is a story of pain, perseverance, rejection, and triumph. A story that proves you don't need words to touch hearts. Even today, long after his time, he lives on. In our hearts, in our screens, in the laughter of children who have never even heard his voice. His story is not just history. It is fuel for the soul. It is a journey you must hear. A journey that will show you that no matter how hard life gets, you must never stop. Never. Stop dreaming. Never stop trying. Never stop believing. So watch till the end, because this story is not only perfect for learning English, it might just change the way you see life. Are you ready? Let's begin. Charlie Chaplin was born on April 16, 1889, in the heart of London, England. He came into this world during a time of struggle, into a family of performers. His parents, Hannah Chaplin and Charles Chaplin Sr., were both involved in the world of music and theater. They were entertainers. They lived for the applause, for the stage, for the dream. But dreams don't always come true the way we imagine. Sometimes life has other plans, darker, harsher plans. Charlie's father, though once a talented singer, became consumed by alcohol. It took over his life. It destroyed his career, his marriage, his health, and ultimately his bond with his family. He left them, abandoned them, when Charlie was still just a small, innocent boy. His mother, Hannah, was left alone, struggling to raise Charlie and his older half-brother, Sidney. She had no money, no support, and the stage that once gave her joy now turned its back on her. They lived in poverty. Not the kind of poverty where you skip luxuries. No, they lived in brutal, bone-deep poverty. Sometimes there was no food. Sometimes Charlie had to go to bed hungry. Sometimes his mother would pretend to eat just to make it look like there was enough food. They moved from one dirty, crowded room to another. They lived in fear. Fear of being kicked out, fear of starvation, fear of what tomorrow might bring. But Charlie was a child, and children, even in the darkest of circumstances, still manage to find moments of light. They still find ways to smile. Charlie adored his mother. She was beautiful, graceful, and talented. She performed in theaters, singing with a voice that once captivated crowds. Charlie would sit backstage, watching her, mesmerized. He didn't need toys. He didn't need money. All he wanted was to be like her, to stand on stage, to perform, to bring joy to people. But fate was cruel. One night, while Hannah was performing, her voice suddenly failed. It cracked, disappeared. The crowd turned against her. They shouted. They booed. They threw things at her. It was humiliation beyond words. But then, something extraordinary happened. A little boy, barely 5 years old, walked onto the stage. It was Charlie. He picked up the microphone, he sang, he danced, he performed, and the crowd, who just moments before had been full of anger, began to laugh. They clapped, they cheered. That was the first time Charlie made people laugh, and deep inside, he felt something spark, a fire, a calling. He knew in that moment, this is what I was born to do. But dreams don't protect you from pain. As time passed, Hannah's mental health began to deteriorate. The pressure, the poverty, the pain, it broke her. She began to lose her grip on reality. Sometimes she didn't even recognize Charlie. Sometimes she would talk to invisible people. Eventually she was taken away, locked in a mental asylum. Charlie and Sydney stood there helpless as their mother was dragged away. They were alone. No parents, no money, nowhere to go. Just two boys and a dream. They were sent to live in DAs, workhouses. If you don't know what that is, imagine the worst place a child could be sent. Cold, harsh, unloving. These places were where the poor were put to work in exchange for basic food and shelter. Charlie was just 7 years old when he was thrown into this world. 7. An age when most children play with toys and dream about candy. Charlie was scrubbing floors, wearing ragged clothes, and surviving on scraps. He was even separated from his brother, alone, scared, abandoned. And yet, even in that darkness, he held on to something powerful, a dream, a burning desire to be on stage, to perform, to create, to make the world smile. It wasn't a fantasy, it was a purpose. He clung to it like a lifeline. He knew he had no choice but to fight for that dream. So he worked. Whatever job he could find, he took. He washed dishes, delivered newspapers, worked in a toy shop. But none of those jobs could quiet the voice inside him, the voice that kept whispering, "You're meant for more." One day, while walking the streets, he saw a group of performers entertaining a crowd. They were singing, dancing, acting. Something lit up inside him. He joined them. At first, no one noticed him. People walked past uninterested. But Charlie didn't quit. He studied. He learned. He watched every move, every gesture, every expression. Slowly, he got better. Slowly, people started to stop. They began to laugh. They began to cheer. For the first time in his life, he felt the power to bring happiness. At the age of 14, he got his first big break. He was hired by a small theater group called the 8 Lancashire Lads. It wasn't a glamorous job. He was just part of the ensemble. But to Charlie, it was everything. He worked harder than anyone. He trained for hours. He studied the masters of performance. He gave it his all, and it showed. His talent began to shine. Directors started noticing. He wasn't just good, he was different. He had something special, something raw, something real. By the time he was 16, Charlie landed a major role in the stage play Sherlock Holmes. He wasn't just a street performer anymore. He was acting in real theaters, in front of real audiences. People laughed, they cried, they applauded, and Charlie knew this is just the beginning. And then, fate came knocking. In 1910, Charlie was invited to join a traveling comedy group, Fred Carno's company. This was huge. They were going to tour America, the land of dreams, the place where the impossible became possible. Charlie packed his small bag and stepped onto a ship that would carry him across the ocean and into history. When he arrived, everything was different. The streets were wide. The lights were bright. The energy of America was electric. And most importantly, Hollywood was there. The new world of film, moving pictures, silent stories, a place where a man could become a legend. In 1913, Keystone Studios offered Charlie a small role in a silent film. It was just a few minutes on screen, but Charlie saw the potential. He knew film was the future. He wanted to create something unforgettable. So he crafted a character, a little man in oversized pants, a tight jacket, a funny bowler hat, a tiny mustache, and a walk that would one day become the most famous in the world. At first, people were confused. Who was this strange man? What was he doing? But then he moved, he danced, he acted, and suddenly people were laughing, deep, joyful laughter. Without a single word, Charlie made the whole world feel something. His character, the tramp, was born. A funny little man who faced a cruel world with charm, hope, and a bit of rebellion. The world fell in love. One film became two. Two became 10. And soon, Charlie Chaplin was not just a name. He was a phenomenon. Becoming popular, producers begged him to make more. Studios offered him huge amounts of money, and in just a few years, the poor boy from the streets of London had become the biggest star in the world. By 1917, Charlie Chaplin was not just famous. He was a phenomenon. People stood in long lines just to watch his movies. His face was printed on posters, newspapers, magazines. He was loved in every country, every language, every culture. And he was just getting started. But behind all the fame, behind all the laughter, Charlie was still the same boy. The boy who once starved on the streets, who once cried for his mother, who never gave up. Charlie Chaplin had finally made it. The poor, hungry boy from London's streets was now the biggest movie star in the world. He was not just famous, he was loved. Millions of people watched his movies. They laughed, they cried, they cheered. But behind all the success, Charlie knew something. This was just the beginning. Now, he wanted more. He didn't just want to act. He wanted to control everything: the stories, the direction, the music, the emotions. He wanted to create movies his way. But Hollywood didn't like that. At that time, actors were controlled by movie studios. The studios told them what to do, how to act, and even what movies to make. But Charlie Chaplin was different. He said, "No one will control me. I will make my own movies my way." And so, in 1918, he did something that shocked the entire industry. He built his own studio, Chaplin Studios. Now he was his own boss. He could create whatever he wanted, and no one could stop him. This was a game changer. Then he made a movie that would become one of the most legendary films of all time. In 1921, Charlie released a film called The Kid. It was not just a comedy, it was his story. The story of a poor man and an orphan boy, a story about hunger, struggle, and love. It was funny, but also emotional. People laughed. People cried. The whole world fell in love with this movie. And at that moment, Charlie knew movies were not just entertainment, they were powerful. They could change lives. And he was going to use them to change the world. With every movie, Charlie became more powerful. Hollywood had never seen anything like him. Studios were paying actors $10 a week, but Charlie, he was earning $1 million per movie. He became the richest and most powerful actor in the world. And yet, he never forgot his past. He still remembered the days when he had nothing to eat. He remembered his mother sitting alone in the mental asylum. So even when he had everything, he never stopped working hard. He would spend months, even years, making just one film. Every little movement, every small joke, every tiny detail, he planned everything. Because he didn't just want to make movies, he wanted to make history. And then he did something no one believed was possible. By the late 1920s, Hollywood was changing. A new kind of movie had arrived, movies with sound. For the first time, actors could speak on screen. Silent films were dying. Everyone told Charlie, "Forget silent movies. Start making talking films." But Charlie refused. He said, "Movies don't need words. Emotions are more powerful than words." And in 1931, when the world thought silent movies were dead, he released City Lights. It was one of the most emotional, beautiful films ever made. Even though it had no dialogue, people cried watching it. The final scene, where Charlie's character looks at a blind girl, is one of the greatest moments in film history. Even today, people call it the greatest silent movie ever made. And with this movie, Charlie proved that emotions speak louder than words. By the late 1930s, the world was changing again. Adolf Hitler was rising to power in Germany. He was spreading hate, war, and fear. And Charlie noticed something strange. Hitler had the same mustache as him. People started comparing them. So Charlie made a decision. He would use his comedy to fight against Hitler. In 1940, he made a movie called The Great Dictator. It was his first talking movie, and it was not just a comedy, it was a message to the world. In the final scene, Charlie gives a speech, one of the most powerful speeches in history. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. Let us fight for a world of reason. Let us fight for freedom. The world listened. The speech became legendary. Even today, it is watched by millions of people. It was proof that Charlie was not just a comedian. He was a fighter, a voice for the people. But Hollywood didn't like this. Charlie was too powerful, too independent, and some people didn't like his political messages. So they turned against him. They accused him of things he never did. They spread lies about him. And finally, in 1952, they forced him to leave America. Charlie was kicked out of the country he had helped build. Heartbroken, Charlie moved to Switzerland. He stopped making movies. He lived a quiet life with his family. But the world never forgot him. Then, in 1972, after 20 years, Hollywood realized their mistake. They invited Charlie back. At the Oscars, they gave him a standing ovation, the longest in history, 12 minutes of applause. Even after everything, Charlie had won. Because he was not just an actor, he was a legend. Charlie's life teaches us one thing: never give up. No matter how hard life gets, no matter how poor you are, no matter how many people try to stop you. If you have a dream, fight for it. Charlie was a homeless boy with nothing. But he became the most loved man in the world. But behind his fame, his success, and his laughter, his personal life was full of struggles. People betrayed him. Governments turned against him. And even after his death, something shocking happened. Now, we reveal his complicated love life, his biggest betrayals, his final years in Switzerland, and the shocking story of how his dead body was stolen from his grave. Charlie Chaplin was a genius, but in love, he was very complicated. He fell in love too easily, and many times his relationships ended in pain and drama. Charlie was married 4 times in his life. His first 3 marriages failed. Each time the woman left him, took his money, and sometimes even took him to court. People started saying, Charlie can make the whole world happy, but he cannot find happiness in love. But then something changed. In 1943, when Charlie was 54 years old, he met Una O'Neill. She was just 18 years old. People said, she is too young for him. But Charlie didn't care. For the first time, he had found true love. Una became the most important person in his life. She stood by him when the world turned against him. She was his best friend, his love, his everything. They stayed together until the very end. And, despite the age gap, they were truly happy. They had 8 children together. For the first time, Charlie had a real family, and there he lived his final years. For 25 years, Charlie lived in a beautiful house in Switzerland. It was peaceful. It was quiet. He spent time writing, reading, playing with his kids. He would walk in his garden, thinking about his past, his struggles, and his journey. Sometimes he would watch his old movies and laugh. Even though he was away from Hollywood, he was not forgotten. People all over the world still loved him. On December 25th, 1977, the world woke up to sad news. Charlie Chaplin had died in his sleep. He was 88 years old. It was Christmas Day. The world went silent. A man who had made billions of people laugh was gone. People cried. Every country in the world paid tribute to him. Newspapers wrote, "The world has lost its greatest comedian." But then something shocking happened. 3 months after his death, something unbelievable happened. One night, a group of thieves broke into his grave. They dug up his coffin. And they stole Charlie Chaplin's body. Yes, his dead body was kidnapped. The thieves wanted money. They demanded $600,000 from his family. But Una, his wife, refused. She said, Charlie would have laughed at this situation. For weeks, the world was shocked. Where was Charlie Chaplin's body? Then, after a huge police investigation, the thieves were finally caught. They were 2 poor men from Eastern Europe. They had stolen the body to escape poverty. Finally, Charlie's body was returned to his family. And this time, they buried him in a stronger, cement-covered grave so that no one could ever steal him again. Even though Charlie Chaplin died in 1977, he is still alive. Every time we laugh, he is there. Every time we watch a great movie, he is there. He taught us that life is not just about money, success, or power. Life is about laughter, love, and never giving up. Even when he had nothing, he never lost hope. Even when the world turned against him, he never stopped fighting. Charlie Chaplin is not just a name. He is an emotion. He is the greatest comedian in history. And his story will inspire generations to come. So if he can do it, so can you. Dream big. Work hard. And one day, your story will inspire the world. Charlie Chaplin's story is over. But his lessons, his movies, and his spirit will live forever. If you loved this story, please share it with the world. Subscribe to our channel, Mindset English, for more inspiring stories that touch your heart, build your mindset, and help you grow. And always remember his most famous words, "A day without laughter is a day wasted." Thank you, Charlie. We will never forget you.